In the vast and often unforgiving landscape of human existence, there exists a force as powerful and as fundamental as any in the natural world, the spirit of resilience. It's a quiet, indomitable current that flows within us all, an instinct not just for survival, but for triumph against seemingly insurmountable odds. It's the seedling pushing through concrete, the river carving a path through stone. This innate power allows individuals, when faced with the harshest of conditions, be it crushing failure, profound loss, or unimaginable adversity, to not merely endure, but to rise again, stronger and more determined than before. It really is a testament to the extraordinary capacity of life to adapt, to overcome, and to flourish. My name is Joseph Sims, and today, we journey into the heart of this remarkable phenomenon. We will witness the human spirit at its most tested and its most triumphant. We're not just recounting tales of success, we're exploring the very essence of what it means to be human, to face the abyss, and find the courage to build a bridge across it. These are accounts of individuals who were pushed to the very edge of their endurance, who stared into the void of despair, and yet through some incredible alchemy of will and hope, managed to orchestrate a return that would echo through history. Prepare to be moved, to be inspired, and perhaps to see a reflection of your own potential within these narratives. For these are not simply stories. They are evidence of the profound strength that lies dormant within each of us, waiting for its moment to awaken. These are, without exaggeration, the greatest comeback stories ever told. We begin with a man who turned a prison cell into a crucible for a nation's soul. Our journey begins on a small, windswept island off the coast of South Africa. Here, in a stark limestone quarry under a punishing sun, a man was condemned to hard labor, his identity reduced to a number 466/64. For 27 years, Nelson Mandela was confined, his vision for a united democratic nation seemingly extinguished by the brutal reality of his imprisonment. The world outside changed. Generations were born, yet his reality remained one of stone walls and iron bars. His struggle was not just against his captors, but against the slow, creeping erosion of hope that such prolonged isolation is designed to inflict. Yet within that crucible of suffering, something extraordinary was being forged. He learned the language of his oppressors, not as a tool of submission, but as a bridge to understanding. He transformed his confinement into a university, his fellow prisoners into students of history and architects of a future they might never see. Every day was a quiet act of rebellion, a refusal to let his spirit be broken or his mind imprisoned. He held fast to the belief that even the deepest wounds of a nation could be healed, not through vengeance, but through reconciliation. This was not a passive waiting, it was an active, deliberate cultivation of the very ideals for which he had been jailed, a testament to the idea that even in the darkest of places a vision for a brighter world can be kept alive. From the political stage, we turn to the quiet corners of a city cafe, where a different kind of world was being brought to life. Here, a young single mother, Rowling, found herself at what many would consider rock bottom. Navigating the challenges of poverty, clinical depression, and the immense responsibility of raising a child alone, her future appeared uncertain, even bleak. The rejections from publishers mounted, each one a closed door, a confirmation of the world's indifference to the magical universe teeming within her imagination. The story of a young wizard with a lightning bolt scar was her private sanctuary, a world built from creativity and desperation. She wrote on scraps of paper in borrowed moments of time fueled by tea and an unyielding belief in her creation. It was an act of pure faith. The world saw a struggling woman. She saw a hidden platform at King's Cross Station. Where others saw only hardship, she found the raw material for her narrative. Themes of loss, prejudice, and the enduring power of love and friendship became the very bedrock of her story. Her persistence was not born of arrogance, but of a deep, unshakable connection to the characters she had created, a responsibility to tell their tale. This was the slow, methodical magic of turning profound personal struggle into a universal story of hope. We now travel back in time to the sprawling frontiers of 19th century America to witness a masterclass in perseverance. Before his face was etched onto mountains and currency, Abraham Lincoln was a man intimately acquainted with failure. His life was a litany of setbacks that would have defeated most ordinary individuals. He failed in business, not once but twice, leaving him with debts that took years to repay. He suffered a nervous breakdown. He ran for public office repeatedly and was defeated time and again, for state legislator, for Speaker of the House, for Congress, for the Senate, for the vice presidency. Each loss was a public humiliation, a stark reminder of his apparent shortcomings. Yet this string of defeats was, in truth, a relentless process of refinement. Each failure was a lesson in humility, in strategy, in understanding the complex tapestry of human nature and political will. He was being shaped not by victory, but by adversity. This was a man who learned to speak to the common person because he had been one, who understood division because he had felt it in his own life. When his nation faced its greatest crisis, a house divided against itself, it was this man, forged in the fires of repeated failure, who possessed the unique combination of wisdom, empathy, and steely resolve required to hold it together. His eventual rise was not in spite of his failures, but because of them. The ocean, for many, is a place of serenity and beauty. For a young Bethany Hamilton, it was her sanctuary, her playground, her future. A supremely talented surfer, she was already on a path to greatness at just 13 years old. But on one tranquil morning, the sanctuary became a place of unimaginable terror. In a sudden violent instant, a tiger shark attacked, severing her left arm at the shoulder. In the moments that followed, her life hung by the thinnest of threads, her survival itself a miracle. For any athlete, such an injury would be career-ending. For a surfer who relies on the delicate balance and power of two arms to paddle and push up on the board, it seemed an absolute, unassailable end. The question was not if she would ever compete again, but how she could possibly live a normal life. But within this young girl resided a spirit as powerful and untamable as the ocean itself. Just 1 month after the attack, in an act of breathtaking courage, Bethany returned to the water. She had to relearn everything. She had to find a new center of gravity, a new way to paddle, a new way to conquer the waves that had nearly claimed her. It was a fight not just against physical limitation but against the deep-seated fear that now resided within her. Her return to professional surfing was more than a comeback, it was a redefinition of what is possible. Sometimes, the deepest comebacks are not about returning to a life that was lost, but about forging an entirely new one from the ashes of unimaginable tragedy. John Walsh was a successful hotel executive, a husband and a father living a comfortable life. That life was irrevocably shattered in 1981 when his 6-year-old son, Adam, was abducted from a department store and brutally murdered. The pain was absolute, a void that threatened to consume him and his family entirely. In the aftermath, he encountered a justice system that was disjointed, indifferent, and ill-equipped to handle such cases, compounding his grief with a profound sense of helplessness and frustration. From this abyss of personal despair, a new, powerful instinct emerged. It was the instinct of a protector, a warrior. John Walsh refused to let his son's death be just another statistic. He channeled his rage and his grief into a righteous crusade. He became a tireless advocate for the missing, lobbying for landmark legislation, and founding the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. He then stepped in front of the camera, hosting America's Most Wanted, turning his personal tragedy into a public mission. This was not a return to his old life, it was the birth of a new identity, transforming his pain into a shield for countless others, and ensuring his son's legacy was one of hope and justice. In the Swat Valley of Pakistan, a young girl dared to believe in a simple yet revolutionary idea that she, and every girl, had the right to an education. Her name was Malala Yousafzai. She spoke out, blogging for the BBC under a pseudonym, her voice a small but clear beacon of defiance against the Taliban's oppressive decree banning girls from school. She knew the risks. In her world, a girl's voice was a dangerous thing. That danger became terrifyingly real when a masked gunman boarded her school bus, asked for her by name, and shot her in the head. The act was meant to silence her, to make an example of her, to extinguish her light forever. But, some lights cannot be extinguished. Malala's survival was by all accounts, a medical miracle. She was flown to the United Kingdom where she began a long and arduous recovery, relearning how to live. The assassins had failed. Far from silencing her, they had given her a global platform. She awoke from her ordeal not with fear, but with a voice that was now louder, more resonant, and heard by millions around the world. She addressed the United Nations, co-authored a book, and became the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate. Her comeback was not just a return to life, but an amplification of her mission, transforming an act of hatred into a global movement for education and peace. In the world of technology, innovation is king, and its kingdom is, notoriously fickle. In 1985, Steve Jobs, the mercurial co-founder of Apple, the man who had helped launch the personal computer revolution, found himself a king in exile. Following a bitter power struggle with the board of directors and the CEO he himself had hired, he was unceremoniously ousted from the company he had built in his parents' garage. It was a stunning, public humiliation. The visionary was cast out, his own creation turned against him. For many, this would have been a career-ending blow, a retreat into obscurity and wealth. But for Jobs, this period in the wilderness was not an end. It was a vital, creative incubation. He founded Next, a company that, while not a commercial giant, pushed the boundaries of software development. He also acquired a small computer graphics division that would become Pixar, revolutionizing animated filmmaking. He was learning, evolving, and maturing as a leader, away from the spotlight. So when a struggling Apple, on the brink of bankruptcy, acquired Next in 1997, it wasn't just buying technology, it was bringing its soul back home. Jobs' return heralded the most remarkable corporate turnaround in history, launching a succession of iconic products, the iMac, iPod, iPhone, and iPad, that would, honestly, fundamentally change the world. The narrative of Hollywood is littered with tales of talent lost to the siren song of excess. For a time, it really seemed Robert Downey Jr. would be one of its most tragic chapters. He was an actor of prodigious, undeniable talent, an Oscar nominee with a brilliant future. Yet he became more famous for his battles with severe drug addiction than for his performances. His life spiraled into a chaotic cycle of arrests, rehab stints, and relapses. He lost his roles, his reputation, and even his freedom, at one point serving time in prison. The industry that had once celebrated him wrote him off as unemployable, a risk no one was willing to take. He had hit rock bottom, a cautionary tale. But beneath the wreckage, the artist remained. His comeback was not a single dramatic event but a slow, painstaking process of rebuilding his life from the ground up. It required immense personal accountability, humility, and the support of a few who still believed in him. He took on small, independent roles, proving his reliability and reminding audiences of his singular talent. Then came the role of a lifetime, Tony Stark. It was a perfect fusion of actor and character, a brilliant, charming, self-destructive genius who ultimately builds a suit of armor to save himself and the world. In becoming Iron Man, Robert Downey Jr. didn't just find a blockbuster franchise. He found a powerful metaphor for his own redemption, rising from the ashes to become one of the most beloved and respected actors on the planet. There are comebacks that inspire millions, and then there are those that become deeply complicated, forcing us to examine the very nature of truth and heroism. In the mid-1990s, Lance Armstrong was a promising American cyclist. Then, at the age of 25, he was diagnosed with advanced testicular cancer that had spread to his lungs and brain. Doctors gave him less than a 40% chance of survival. His battle was brutal and public, involving aggressive chemotherapy and surgery. His survival alone was a monumental victory against the odds. But what followed was the stuff of legend. He didn't just return to cycling, he dominated it. He won the grueling Tour de France, an unprecedented 7 consecutive times, from 1999 to 2005. He became a global icon of survival, his yellow Livestrong wristband a ubiquitous symbol of hope and resilience for cancer patients everywhere. His comeback was, for a time, perhaps the most inspirational sports story ever told. However, this narrative was built on a foundation of deceit. Years of rumors culminated in a 2012 investigation that stripped him of all his titles, exposing a sophisticated and widespread doping program. The hero fell, and the story became a complex tragedy, a cautionary tale about the blinding nature of ambition and the difficult, often murky line between an inspiring comeback and a carefully constructed lie. Our final story is one of such profound endurance it seems to belong to mythology. Louis Zamperini was an Olympic runner, a bombardier in World War II whose plane crashed into the vast, empty expanse of the Pacific Ocean. He and one other crewman survived adrift on a small life raft for an astonishing 47 days. They endured starvation, dehydration, relentless sun, and shark-infested waters. This ordeal alone is a legendary tale of survival. But their rescue was to be captured by the Japanese Navy, leading to more than 2 years of torment as a prisoner of war. He was singled out for particularly brutal, sadistic treatment by a prison guard known as the Bird. He was beaten, starved, and subjected to relentless psychological torture, all designed to break his spirit. Yet, he refused to be broken. He drew on the same resilience that had propelled him as an athlete, the same will that had kept him alive on the raft. After the war, he returned home a hero, but he was a man haunted by deep trauma and a burning desire for revenge. His ultimate comeback was not just surviving the war, but conquering the hatred within himself. Years later, in a staggering act of grace, he found it in his heart to forgive his tormentors, traveling to Japan to offer his forgiveness in person. His was a life that demonstrated not only the ability of the human body to endure, but the boundless capacity of the human heart to heal. From the prison cell to the president's office, from a cafe napkin to a global phenomenon, from the depths of the ocean to the heights of forgiveness. The stories we have witnessed today are more than just remarkable anecdotes. They are powerful, living proof of the resilience that defines the human condition. They show us that our past failures, our deepest wounds, and our most terrifying obstacles do not have to be the end of our story. Instead, they can become the very foundation upon which we build our greatest triumphs. The path is never easy, and the outcome is never guaranteed, but the potential for a comeback is a spark that exists within every single one of us. These individuals teach us that true strength is not the absence of weakness or fear, but the courage to continue in spite of it. It is the will to take one more step, to write one more page, to face one more day, even when all seems lost. The circumstances may differ, but the core lesson remains universal. Never, ever give up. No matter the odds stacked against you, no matter how final the defeat may seem, the capacity to rise again is an integral part of who we are. Your own great comeback story may be waiting just beyond your darkest hour, so now I turn to you. These are the tales that inspire me, but the world is full of such incredible stories of resilience. Which one resonates most deeply with you? Is there a comeback, famous or personal, that has given you strength in a difficult time? Please share your favorite comeback story in the comments below. Let's create a space that celebrates the unbreakable, indomitable, and beautiful power of the human spirit. Thank you for joining me on this journey.